Welcome to Spider-Verse Minute, the tri-weekly podcast where we watch Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 1 minute at a time. I'm Caroline Slater.
And I'm her brother Sean.
And today we are going to talk about minute 40. It starts with the cops confronting Miles and ends with Miles saying he's not trying to kill Peter B. Parker.
What did you end up naming this minute?
Child Spider-Man and Homeless Corpse. Really? Yeah, I'm like, oh, that's it. That's the title.
That is one way to explain what they look like.
Might be the dumbest title I have come up with, but I am very happy with it. Would you like to start with the notes?
Yeah, the first thing I like is how instantly, he complies with the officers. They're just like, put your hands up, and he instantly just throws his hands up, which
it makes sense because his dad's a cop, so his dad's probably drilled into him.
It also makes sense because he is a black child, and
that too.
And that is
the conversations that must have happened in that house.
Yeah, that's probably I imagine it's even harder for his dad to have it with him than just a non-cop's child, right? To have it with their child. But it is a funny, I don't know, it's one of those funny but
when you think about
real
it,
gags,
kind of
yeah.
Oh.
the fact that he needs to respond that quickly isn't funny, but the gag of him shooting
responding that quickly is kind of funny.
That and accidentally bumping the web shooter again, and then getting slung off. I did love again, they show how elastic the web is, where it hits the train, it gets pulled a little bit, it pulls away. Peter, he gets pulled a little bit, it starts to tug on Miles' shirt, and then Miles gets pulled away. And it's again of that showing what the spider, the webbing actually works.
Yeah, and I love how it's a long enough time that Miles can kind of go, adios.
Yeah.
And just be like, I have no control over this.
Yeah, and at first it doesn't really register what's happening to him until he starts getting pulled away. And they also do another neat thing on this one where I don't think we've really touched on it in a while, but they do the double animation where an object is on screen twice, and they do that with Peter's shoes.
Yeah, I don't think we talked about that in a while.
We talked about it in when Miles is leaving for school in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Originally, we talked about how they were closing the door. It some of his hands were doubled up, and rotating that way. But it was an interesting way of on the frames where there's quote unquote no motion, where frame A has them move, and then frame B, the main body doesn't move. What they do is they actually have just those shoes, they have the shoes doubled in frame A, and then they move into where they're supposed to be in frame B. And it's a way of showing that motion without actually moving the whole frame.
It's really
and it's fast enough that our eyes don't really catch it. It looks more like motion blur and movement than when it's in actuality not.
Yeah, it's very cool. Another animation thing that, we've kind of touched on it a lot, but when Peter gets dragged, he rams his head into the other Peter's headstone.
Yeah.
Which I won't lie, I was trying to think of a head pun to come up with. I couldn't. But when that happens, there's a giant clump flash that takes up the whole screen. Yeah. And we haven't seen one of the full screen ones in a while.
I also like how they took the time to put the word clunk on it, even though clunk really only appears for a frame.
Right?
And it was really interesting that instead of just doing the flash, they also put the word up there, even though no one's going to be able to read that word.
Yeah, I didn't catch it until I just kind of happened to pause it to take a note, and I look up, I'm like, wait a second. I also love the music change.
Yeah, I do love this music. The scratches and just like the upbeat, like, okay, gotta hurry kind of feeling of the music is such a great, like, it makes total sense for this scene.
It makes sense for the scene and it makes sense for this movie, although I would be lying if I said I wasn't thinking of the classic
Yeah.
like that music while this was playing. Like, oh, that would have been funny. But but I also like it's the same feeling, so I love this music as well.
Yeah, and as they're flying up through the air, or after he hits the headstone,
Mm-hmm.
the little balloon that gets stuck to
I was
to
about to ask
Miles
you
for a
if you're
bit,
noticed
and
the Spider-Man balloon.
yeah, and that's only on there briefly, but it is a nice little touch. And as they're getting pulled along, then you see the sirens come careening around
Mm-hmm.
the corner. The one thing I was wondering
Mm-hmm.
was, are these the same two officers from the cemetery, or were they able to call in like back up that quickly?
I feel like they would be able to call him back up that quickly.
Yeah, it seems way too fast for them to like run to their car and then
Yeah,
turn around it. But then also a bit later in the minute we hear what sounds like is the initial call in from the
the police radio.
calling through the police radio, and so it'd be a little weird. At least it feels like it'd be a little weird to display or to make that call multiple times. But I guess they could just be running it down the line, like, oh,
Yeah,
they were in this sector, so we'll call these officers, and like, oh, nope, he moved into the next one.
it is possible. I tend to do just kind of overall. I shouldn't say I'm some sort of cop expert, but from what I have read and seen and heard, it seems to they'll do like just big calls on different cars, and like if you're nearby, you're like required to
Yeah,
go or something. They just kind of because they don't know like exact stations. Like, oh, we know your car is near this area. Like they just kind of cast it out, and whoever's nearby is supposed to go.
yeah, everybody in this precinct, like,
Mm-hmm.
who's supposed to
Yeah,
be in
like
patrolling this
it just
area.
gets sent out. I can say it might be possible that the cops radioed it to a close by,
Yeah, if they had other
like
people that they knew were nearby,
because
or
I
those cops
know
just saw it, like,
that's
it
also
could be
possible.
like,
But
oh,
like
we just saw
I
this guy get pulled along the train, better throw on the lights.
yeah, like I know in New York it's not totally uncommon to see like a few cop cars nearby. Now that's not always like two or three all at once.
Yeah, just the immediate, like, all officers in a 20-foot radius.
Speaking of things that I have seen in New York, or like I can like make sense because I live in the city, is the biker between the two semi trucks.
Yeah,
That cracked me up. But it's also like, you know what, I could see this happening in New York, and it probably has
yeah. I mean,
happened.
that like didn't really throw me off because I do that kind of thing around town as well.
Mm-hmm.
Where especially going through downtown, I'll ride in the different lanes and through cars because they're going slow. Um, but yeah, the thing I had about him was that he's very strong for having,
He is.
200 pounds, 250 pounds suddenly drop on top of him. Um, and, and he's, doesn't immediately just collapse into the ground and is somehow able to still stay up. Like, okay, maybe some of that weight's still being carried by the webbing, but yeah, it's still,
Yeah.
the fact that he didn't just immediately crash.
I will say it was a little cathartic for me because not all bike riders, but there are many bike riders in the city that are complete jerks.
Yeah.
So it was like, he got hit by a doorway. Yes.
I did like the 3-panel freeze frame that they did with him as he got hit by the car and then, flew up into the air and then he froze and Miles threw up and then he froze. And then as Peter was thrown up into the air, I liked the little text box that they put up for him, like just a little, oh, what's this? As he like sort of wakes back up.
Yeah, the little text box and a little bit of voiceover.
Yeah.
Too, and like, that was good. And then
he gets pulled, and then Miles gets pulled, and the bike falls down. The cyclist falls down.
And then there's Miles. I feel so bad for Peter in this minute the more I watch.
Yeah.
Like, this poor man. His face literally, it's a miracle he still has a face, but his face literally just grind against grout. It's like, oh.
And I think that's a great way of, like, another way of showing and not telling of how strong the spider people are is like Peter is able to get his, face smashed into ground, traveling at, a decent speed with
subway speed.
Yeah, with a large child, putting its full weight onto his face, and he just comes out of it with some scrapes. His teeth are a little messed up, and he's got like a black eye, but I don't think the black eye is from the road.
Probably not.
But like, it's a great way of showing how strong they are and like how durable they are.
It really is, and it makes sense. It's like, how are these, like, we see in the flashbacks, like, quite a few times, like, they get beaten pretty hard. It's like, how are these people still working? It's like, that's how durable they are.
Yeah. I also have a theory, though, too, that in any sort of universe where there are powered individuals, whether that be in, like, Avatar or Pokemon or superhero movies, like, humans have naturally evolved to be more durable than people on Earth because of having to deal with, like, all the weaklings have been culled out. Anyone who's not like
natural selection.
In the one episode of Pokemon, Ash gets blasted with one of Charizard's fire blasts, so he gets just engulfed in flames for a couple seconds, and he's fine like 5 minutes later. So obviously, like, the people are a bit better. Or like in superhero shows, like, oh, they get like nearly every superhero should just have severe brain damage from the amount of like concussions they give and take, and like they seem fine. So obviously, like, okay, they're just built like the average human is built tougher than people in our universe.
You know what? That actually is a really good theory. I like that theory. Yeah. I genuinely am like, you know what? That actually makes a lot of sense for the majority of heroes. Yeah,
I would love for like the shows, like either Marvel or DC shows, or movies where they involve like hopping universes, to have like one where there's no powered people and just like have normal people like bring either over somebody normal, like a normal non-powered person from one of the universes, just to show like, oh yeah, this person's a lot more durable than what we would expect, to kind of like hint at that, like, oh, this is why like in superhero shows like and movies people can get blasted through the walls and be fine.
It's like they just aren't like that. Right after we see his incredible facial strength, it switches to my favorite part of this minute, and I think you know because I named the minute after it. And it is the police call that we hear in the cop car. And I forget it word for word, but it is like a child dressed as Spider-Man.
Yeah, so it's looks like a child dressed as Spider-Man dragging a homeless corpse behind a train.
Like, just the pure ridiculousness of that, and like, I kind of want to know what the cops in the car were picturing before Miles and Peter just slammed on their roof, and they're like, oh, so what did you guys imagine?
And I kind of like that kind of gag where like, oh, someone hears this ridiculous scene immediately comes into scene right after it. It's always gets a good, hearty, chuckle out of me.
They do a similar gag later in the movie, and we'll probably talk about it more because I can't remember the exact order it goes in, but when we have finally met all the spider people and they're fighting in Aunt May's house, it cuts to Miles' dad in the car, and they're like, I'm getting a call of spider people?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a great, just like, because it's a very quiet gag, like it goes from action to that, back to the action. I'm like, wait, what just happened?
Yeah. And the voice on the radio is done by, it's a cameo by one of the producers, Chris Miller. Did the the voice for that.
I like that. One thing I wanted to ask you. The people in the car kind of looked to me anyway, looked like a male and a female cop, which reminded me of that alternate scene you told us about a few minutes ago. It's a male and female cop, and I was brought, like, seeing it made me think of that alternate scene that we had heard not too long ago, in a few minutes past. Do you think that's like a leftover scene from that alternate
Leftover
scene?
from them?
Yeah, like, do you think that's supposed to be
the two of them
the
trying
two
to
that
catch Peter again?
who had just arrested, like they didn't even know, because it looked like they're just sitting in traffic.
Yeah, it's a very real possibility. It could also just be because those male and female, in the alternate scene, it was still just a sketched out, and so like it could have been the same cops in the cemetery were the cops from that cut scene, because that was male and female, so like they weren't detailed enough, and like these cops don't have any defining features, and so it's it could be. I can make either of these the two pairs of cops that my headcanon for them being the same ones as that cutscene, and that's why I think I like it a bit better as the ones in the cemetery, because like I like to think that they were hunting him down, like collecting clues, trying to figure things out.
I think the cemetery one makes more sense, but I think them having in like the car during the call makes it funnier to me. It's like, oh crap, wait, was that the guy from earlier? Like, wait, what happened here?
Yeah, that would have been like the previous night too, that he would have escaped. Yeah,
so I feel like I could be either, and depending which way you want it, you could either get something really funny out of it or something that makes some more logic. I just want to bring it up because I noticed that and I'm like, hey, wait a second. Then the minute ends with this dialogue, which really made me laugh for some reason, specifically because how it cut off.
Yeah.
And it starts with like Peter waking up and he's like, oh, good, I didn't kill you. Peter's like, who are you? Miles, who are you? And he's like, why are you trying to kill me? And it's like, I'm not. And then it cuts off and it's like, okay, there you go, that's your answer.
Yeah. I love that. Oh yes, I didn't kill you. Why are you trying to kill me? Yeah, I also really liked that little back and forth of like, usually it's the other way around of like, why are you trying to kill me? Oh yes, I didn't kill you, but I like the like, yes, I didn't kill you, and like, why are you trying to do this?
Yeah. It was funny. The other thing I noticed that I realized was like the last time I was watching the minute. At 24 seconds and 25 seconds, it's right before they hit the bike guy, actually. Just to go back a bit, because I do want to talk about this scene. We get like a almost perspective style view with Miles, like trying to grab Peter's hand.
Yeah.
And then it does this really cool like tornado spin, and then they hit the bike.
Oh yeah, I was like, it's really interesting because it looks like it makes sense that would happen, because that's like, okay, they only have a single point of contact, and for the string, and when you rotate that, obviously it's going to start, or when you offset the balance of it, it's obviously going to start rotating around it. And I thought that was a really cool thing that they did, where Miles shifts his weight, and so it causes both of them to just start spinning, and getting caught up a little bit.
Yeah, I just think it looked so cool visually.
Yeah.
Too, like it was a very just well animated scene from the perspective to when it started spinning out. Also, like that's a cool like second.
Yeah, the last thing I had to bring up was just the whole feel of this minute. It really
Chaos?
feels no, like I guess the way the city feels.
Yes.
Is it really feels like New York City. At least what the language of what New York City feels like. It gets that across accurately in the way that it's typically portrayed in movies, in the way that's felt. I thought they did a really good job of capturing that.
I mean, it's accurate. Like I'm in a pretty quiet neighborhood, but even then, like I have been out pretty late, and I have yet. I can't think of a time where I have not heard some kind of movement going on, even in my quiet neighborhood. Like it really,
Yeah.
even away from like the more tourist areas, it really is just kind of, there's always something happening.
Yeah. And with the way this scene worked, like during the animators commentary,
Mm-hmm.
they were talking at like as the different cuts were happening, they were being like, oh, so and so shot. I'm like, oh, here is this person. Like, oh, they worked on this. And it really like I guess hit home for the first time, like how many like I knew this movie was the largest number of animators that they had that Sony has used for
It
an
makes
animated
sense.
movie, but like it really hit home like how small chunks animators work in, because for this like the chase scene through the city, like in just the whatever that would have been 30 seconds 35 seconds of this
Mm-hmm.
minute,
Mm-hmm.
they had like 5 or 6 animators that they like named throughout the minute, and it was like, oh, they like pretty much each time the like camera cuts, that's a different animator, which wasn't really something that like I guess had registered for me.
Yeah, it really is insane, and it always kind of makes you stop and think of like, wow, this movie really could have been a mess if
Yeah.
everyone was not on the same page, or if something like if just people, if there wasn't good communication or whatever, like it really could have derailed fast. And the fact it turned out so cool and so amazing that we're doing a podcast on it,
Yeah.
it goes to show just how well this team was behind it.
Yeah. So that's everything I have for this minute. Is there anything else that you wanted to bring up?
That was the last thing I wanted to bring up.
Sounds good. Well, then, thank you for joining us for Minute 40. Tune in on Wednesday where we discuss Minute 41.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.